Hello and welcome to all the viewers in this video on interest on net tax liability, which has recently been notified by the government. We'll discuss today whether that would be considered as retrospective or prospective and what should be the way forward. Tomorrow, if we receive any notices from the department, what should be the approach that we should adopt here, in my opinion. Now, interest provisions is provided under section 50 subsection 1, which says that interest is on failure to pay tax within the prescribed time period. It's very simple. If you don't pay the tax within the prescribed time period, then interest would be applicable, right? Now section 49 says that payment can be through credit ledger or cash ledger. That means if I have a 1 crore tax liability and 1 lakh is paid through cash ledger and 99 lakhs through credit ledger, they are saying payment would be considered as both 1 lakhs through cash ledger and 99 lakhs through credit ledger, right? Now, there was a landmark judgment in case of Mega Engineering, which was in favor of the department, which said that ITC can only be utilized by a person once it enters the credit ledger, right? So, how does it enter the credit ledger? Only after a return is filed. And only after a return is filed, it becomes the taxpayer's money, which can be used for making payment of taxes. Till the return is not filed, in that case the money has not entered the credit ledger. That means the money is with the taxpayer and thereby payment would be on gross tax liability, is what they had mentioned here, right? Thereafter the government came up with a proviso which was inserted in section 50 subsection 1 through Finance Act, wherein the government stated that if the return is filed after the due date, then interest would be payable only on the portion which is payable through cash ledger, which is in that example as we had taken, out of 1 crore, if 1 lakh is paid through cash ledger, interest would be paid only on 1 lakh rupees, except where the proceedings start under demand and recovery under 73 or 74. Apart from that, it would be on cash ledger only. Now, interestingly, in the Finance Act, they had not mentioned whether it would be prospective or retrospective. However, in the 39th GST Council meeting held on 14th of March 2020, the government stated that they are going to make it retrospective. We also had a finance minister's speech stating that this would be considered as a retrospective amendment and interest would no longer be prospective. That means interest would be only on the cash portion and not the credit portion, effective from 1st July 2017. Surprisingly, the government never notified this provision. Very recently, they came up with a notification dated 25th of August 2020 stating that this would be coming into effect. This particular proviso, which was provided in the Finance Act, would be coming into effect from 1st of September 2020. Now there has been a huge discussion everywhere that this provision actually is has been brought in prospectively, and the government should have given a retrospective effect, just the way GST Council had mentioned. Now this is actually a very big issue, that because the government has not yet clarified, and the way the government has written the notification, it seems that they are going to bring it prospectively. Now, there are certain defenses, in my humble opinion, that we can take for the past periods up to before September 2019 to state that this provision would have a retrospective effect. These are defenses that we can take. The department would definitely be proceeding on the presumption that this is a prospective amendment. First of all, there are something called as explanatory or declaratory amendments or declaratory statutes. What has been mentioned here is that any amendment which is only explanatory or which only clarifies the intent of the legislature is to be considered as an explanatory amendment. That means if there was a judicial error, if you look at Justice GP Singh interpretation of statutes, if there is any judicial error which the department or the government had made after the amendment which is notified, that amendment would be considered to be retrospective. The reason why this declaratory amendments is passed is to make sure that the dispute or the intent of the legislature is carried out. So intent of the legislature was always, which we can see from the GST Council minutes also, was to have a retrospective amendment. They did not want to tax on the gross amount but on a net amount. We also have a few Supreme Court judgments one famous judgment is in case of Keshav Lal Jetmal Shah. It says that explanatory amendment is to supply the obvious omission and to clear up the doubts with the previous meaning of the act, right? So if there was any omission on the part of the statute and which clears up the doubt after this amendment, then it would have a retrospective effect. Further, Vatika Township stated that if the legislature confers a benefit on some person and it does not have any detrimental effect to any other person, and the objective is to have a legislature's intent carried out. So the legislator's intent means the government's intent should be carried out. Then it should have a retrospective effect. From all these provisions, to my humble opinion, it seems like a explanatory amendment because it was always the intent of the legislature to have a net amount of tax to be paid, which is interest to be paid on the next amount, which is also known from the GST Council meeting minutes, and also from the fact that the government has been wanting to bring this particular amendment from 1st July 2017, and this amendment is something which results in a huge amount of tax liability unintended on the part of the government, which has been later rectified through this proviso. So according to me, this is a declaratory amendment. It provides benefit to the relevant assessee. It does not have any detriment to any other person, and the objective, the intention of the legislature was always to have this amendment in the picture. So in my humble opinion, this may be grounds for holding that this may have retrospective implications. Of course, department would argue that this is prospective, but we'll have to proceed on a huge litigation front with regard to the fact that this is a retrospective amendment. Now, there are other defenses also that we can take that this is not on gross tax liability interest, but only on the net tax liability. First, in case of Pratibha Processor, Supreme Court, it was stated that interest is compensatory in nature. So, what is meant by this? Interest is only for compensating for the delay which has been suffered by the government. Now, the credit amount is already available with the government. So the government has not suffered a delay because the tax amount by the supplier has been paid. It is only the person who is taking the credit has not taken it. So ideally, interest should be only for the portion in cash, right? Also, there's a return filing defect when it comes to GSTR 3B, that until unless we pay the complete amount of tax, 3B cannot be filed. So even if a person wants to take the credit, they cannot take the credit till they are filing their GSTR 3B, which was not the case in the earlier law. So even if I'm availing the credit in the books, that would not be sufficient for me to have the credit availed in my returns, because the returns does not allow me to submit the relevant amount without having to pay the full tax liability. So because of this, I'm not able to take the credit and there's a delay in filing my returns. So ideally, because of this problem in the GSTR 3B, which was not there in GSTR 3, which could have been filed even without paying the full tax liability, we are not able to take the complete credit. Due to the fault of the return filing process, the assessee should not be penalized. And finally, if the supplier has paid, if I have not taken the credit, that means the government already has the revenue to that account. If the government already has the revenue to that account, then as assessee, as the recipient who is supposed to take the credit in their 3B, if they have not done it till a particular time period, in that case, it doesn't mean that we are the ones who are defaulting here, because the government does not lose out any money which they already have, because the suppliers already paid it. Only on the cash portion which the relevant taxpayer has not paid, only to that accord the government is losing out. To that extent, only the interest should be applicable, in my humble opinion. Further, we have also witnessed direct recovery proceedings under 7512 in the past. If this continues in the future, we also have some other grounds. 75.4 is one particular provision where the government is required to give an opportunity of being heard. So if the government passes any order under 7512, we can always say that we would want an opportunity of being heard under 75.4, right? Secondly, we also have a few judgments. One was of Jharkhand High Court, which stated that amount until unless admitted by the relevant person would not be considered as payable. So as per 7512, only amount payable can be directly recovered. But if I have not admitted the amount, in that case it cannot be considered as payable. Only after relevant adjudication process it can be considered as payable. So if the department directly invokes this proceeding of 7512, we can say that we want the adjudication process to be done and the opportunity of being heard to be provided. Further, Dijung Mopart, it stated interest cannot be quantified by way of unilateral action by the department. The view of the assessee also needs to be taken into account. Further, LC Infra Projects, Karnataka High Court stated that there may be an opportunity which may be provided to the assessee, because he may say that there was no delay on his part. For this, he may provide his reasons, for which the opportunity has to be provided. So, based on this, we can refute that 7512 should not be invoked, and what should be there in the adjudication process, I have already discussed that. So with this we come to the end of our discussion. I know here it's very litigative, the government is going to say this is a prospective amendment, they have written it, but we have grounds to hold that this should be considered as a retrospective amendment, and we should argue based on this particular fact that it is a retrospective amendment. If the tax amount is huge, then you should definitely consider going into litigation and uh, argue that this amount should only be taken on the net tax liability. Interest should only be calculated on the net tax liability for the past period also. With this, we come to the end of our discussion. Thank you so much, viewers, for giving a patient listening to this particular video. If you like this particular video, please hit the like button. And if you want to listen to such videos even in future, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.